of getting screwed, this is how I do a transition. This week is the 28th anniversary of the Montreal Screwjob. And it is, I think, one of the most, if not the most talked about um, wrestling event, historical event, whatever you want to call it, in pro wrestling history. It's been, analyzed 100 different ways, and tonight we're doing it for the 101st time. And yeah, I think I just want to talk about, what the Montreal Screwjob was, and I think for some folks assume like everybody knows it, but there's a new generation of people who are in their 20s or teens that probably haven't really read up on it, or they heard of it a little bit. So this is for you folks. This is for the younger people who maybe aren't as into the history of wrestling as us unks are.
Damn,
So
No, we're not there yet.
what are we, OG? Not OGs.
No, we're still big bro, man.
Oh, we're still big bro. Well,
We got
the
time.
big bro, what's below big bro?
I think the kids say YN.
All right, well, I'm not saying that. So the youngins, I'm going to say the youngins. So for all you youngins out there, Big Bro is going to tell you a little bit about the Montreal Screwjob. So let's set the stage for the Montreal Screwjob. So it took place at Survivor Series on November 9th, 1997. And basically, this was Bret Hart's last match before he went to WCW. So this is the period where the WWF was experiencing some financial hardship because their ass was getting kicked by WCW for the past year and some change. And Bret Hart was basically, he had a contractual disputes with WCW. Initially, he wanted to stay in WWF, and he was basically telling Vince, listen, I got this offer from Eric Bischoff for this amount of money. Is there anything you can do to, make it better, because he didn't want to leave. And in the first contract dispute, so there were two separate contract disputes. So the first time when Eric Bischoff reached out to Bret Hart, he offered him, it was like $2.9 million for 3 years. And basically Bret was able to work for like a third of the dates that he was working in WWF at the time, which is basically almost all year versus like half of that if he went to WCW. Vince McMahon offered Bret Hart a contract that basically gave him 20 years, and he would be paid like $1.5 or $1.6 million for the first handful of years. And then as the years went on, it would be a little less, but when he's in his 50s or 60s, he'd basically be getting still some kind of payout and support because of his allegiance to WWF. In 1997, it wasn't even that long after they signed that contract, Vince was basically telling Bret that he didn't have the money or the financial stability to give him that contract. So he basically had to breach that contract and told him to go to WCW and basically get a better deal. And Bret didn't want to leave. He was trying to, find a way to stay, but Vince was basically kind of like hemming and hawing and basically trying to show him the door and be nice about it. And Bret eventually faxed his contract over and was going to WCW. So that's kind of the groundwork for what happened. And then in terms of like why the screw job happened, so before the Screwjob incident, there was another incident with Alundra Blaze, who became Medusa in WCW, and she was let go from the WWF, and she had the women's championship belt, and she showed up at WCW with the women's WWF Championship belt, and then on camera took the belt and then dropped it in the trash. And that was basically a really big deal because you took someone else's intellectual property and you dumped it on the rival company's TV episode. So live, yes, live. And that's the other thing, is that WCW was live, and WWE was also was pre-taped for a good portion of it, or they were also starting a little later than WCW. So there was a lot of upper hand. There was a lot of creative upper-handedness, for lack of a better word, that Eric Bischoff had that Vince didn't have, and Vince didn't want to have a repeat of that situation. Now, in Bret's contract, he did have reasonable creative control for his final 30 days, and Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels have had issues with each other for a long time, and he didn't want to lose to Shawn Michaels in Canada. He said he could drop the belt the next day. They were initially going to do this whole schmoz where the Hart Foundation and DX were going to come out. It's going to turn into a disqualification. And that means, Shawn Michaels probably won, but Bret still holds the belt because in wrestling rules, you don't win the belt in a DQ. So that was the initial plan. And then he would forfeit the title the next night on Raw. So that didn't happen. At Survivor Series, basically, Shawn Michaels flipped him into a sharpshooter. Earl Hebner was waving his hands to make it look like he was asking Bret, "Are you going to tap?" And then he flipped around, said, "Ring the bell," or he was doing this. And then Vince said, "Ring the bell, ring the fucking bell." And then they rang the bell. Shawn was pretending like he didn't know what was going on. He was sitting in the ring looking confused. And Bret Hart, they call him the Hitman for a reason, hawked a loogie and spit it directly in Vince's forehead. Perfect bullseye. Yeah. And then started trashing the place. The Canadian crowd was upset. He went to the back. He was upset. He was in the shower. He was changing. Vince came in. He basically gave him one free shot. Bret Hart uppercutted him, knocked him out, gave him a black eye, apparently. And yeah, what else is there to say? He goes to WCW without the belt, of course, I think a month later. And Shawn Michaels initially said he didn't know what was happening, and he was actually fully involved, along with Triple H, Briscoe. I think they said Pat Patterson wasn't, but it sounded like he maybe was. And then Jim Cornette was actually the one who gave the idea to Vince to screw Bret Hart. He was like, "Well, I mean, like, it's your property. You should just, do the damn thing and then just do it like it's your property." And that's what Jim Cornette basically said. So let me guys ask you this. So Vince famously said that Bret screwed Bret. Now, Andres, what do you think? Do you feel like, we've already listened to this, we've read books, podcast conversations. Now, 28 years later, has your opinion changed on what Vince said when he said Bret screwed Bret? Do you feel like there's any truth to that?
It's hard to say. It's such a weird spot because it could have been avoided too, even now, like as a full grown adult, I've heard this story, and I'm sure we all have heard thousands of times, like you said, and it's been so long. Yeah. In a way, I say yeah. Not to be like on the bad side of it, but at the same time too, like he dealing with Mr. McMahon and just not, I don't know. I do think he got screwed, but I do think in a way too, he did kind of screw himself, because the contract was up that day too, right? It wasn't like he can just come back on Raw, right? Because wasn't his contract officially up that match?
I think he still had some time. I think he was actually contracted through the beginning of December. something like
'cause I
that.
heard,
So
like,
like they were trying to like so the issue was like when it came to like that specific incident. So legally, I don't think there was any possibility for Bret Hart to take the belt to WCW because um, basically when it happened initially with Medusa, they were already tied up in court about that whole thing. So I don't think Eric Bischoff or WCW as a company would want to relitigate something that they were, I think, still actively in court for. So
Yeah.
I don't think there was any possibility for him to take the belt. But the issue was for Vince and for the WWF, what Eric Bischoff could do is if Bret Hart still won, like retained the championship at Survivor Series, and then WCW Monday Night Nitro, which was taking place the next day, and they're also starting an hour before Monday Night Raw. Bischoff, and who already said that there was going to be a major announcement,
Oh yeah, they would have revealed it
Tony Khan
already.
style,
Yeah.
like, oh hey, I have a major announcement. I just bought the WWF champion, and he's coming to WCW. Like he could do that. So
True.
Vince McMahon didn't want that to happen. He doesn't want like his champion basically like I just had him win. He just defended it. He won the belt. He's shown up on Raw an hour before our show starts. The competitor says that we just bought your champion, and then Bret has to come out with his belt and basically like, yeah, I'm leaving. I got the belt, but I'm leaving. Like then you have to like, so to your point, and maybe it's controversial, maybe it's not, but I could see Vince's perspective if we use that logic. So, some people will say, what's that?
Okay. I heard Brett was like, "Oh, I wanted to win, but then surrender the belt the next night. Like I would just, okay, I'll just give it up at the next night." But why wouldn't they do that though? Oh, because they would have been announced anyways ahead of time, I guess, right?
Yeah. So I think that's what it was. Is like the fact that
like to me logically that would have been fine, but yeah, WCW is going to make a big stink of it and be like, WCW, I'm sorry.
Because like I also agree with you with that too, but I didn't consider that possibility until recently.
I think about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm more like the guy that if the boss tells you, hey, like, just can't do it, just do your job, kind of thing. I get Bret Hart just wasn't. I know of all places he doesn't want to lose in Canada too, so I get that, especially the Shawn, especially the Shawn at that time. That's like the worst thing to happen, I don't know.
What a lose.
Yeah,
so, I don't know.
Shawn Michaels wasn't. I mean, like to his point, and Shawn would agree. He was a dick then, and Bret Hart allegedly was telling him, I'm fine dropping the belt to you, and then Shawn Michaels, like a week or two before the Survivor Series, he's like, well, I wouldn't do the same for you. Yep. So I mean, I'd be kind of pissed off too, but like I don't know. Like it kind of sucks. Like being in Bret Hart's shoes, like I understand him too, because you basically gave 15, 20 years of your career to the WWF at that point. And then you have to leave on like such, like you feel like your boss doesn't want you there anymore, even though you were giving him like opportunities to, it doesn't even have to be the same amount of money. You can give me some creative, creative opportunities, right? And he wasn't really up for that either. So it sucks. Like I could see Bret's perspective on why, but I kind of understand why Vince did what he did. And this isn't, of course, the first time that like wrestling or pro wrestling has done some kind of ending like that. They did it with Wendy Richter too in the 80s. I don't know if that was the first screw job, but it was not too far from 1997 where Moolah showed up and rolled up Wendy Richter, and that was also like a quote unquote screw job because that wasn't supposed to happen. They took the belt off her unceremoniously too. Well, Chris, what do you think? We've been talking and ruminating about this. Do you have similar thoughts, or do you have a different take?
I mean, I feel like they could have worked out a a finish where, like, how he mentioned he would drop it the next night or whatever on Raw, I don't think that would have been too much of an issue. It was a win in Canada because Canada, what do they even have? Free health care?
Yeah. They got Bret Hart and they got hockey. They got Trish Stratus. They got Edge.
I mean, I
Drake.
feel like they could have,
They got Drake.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think that was more helpful before.
I already saw Predator Badlands. I don't need that shit. Honestly, yeah, I feel like they could have figured something out. I think there was an opportunity there, but I mean, I think because of how high the competition was between WCW and WWF, I think Vince just didn't want to risk anything at all of there just being any kind of sort of leeway or leverage for anything. So it was probably something out of desperation. So to your point, I could see why Vince McMahon would do it, but in hindsight, I think there could have been, another way.
David, you said we made that funny comment about I trust Earl. So what do you think about Earl Hebner? So he swore his kids' lives to Bret that he'd call the match fairly. Do you feel like he was just a guy following orders to keep his job, or would you go further and call him a key conspirator?
So I don't think he.
It's like the JFK assassination. it's that level of gravitas.
I think he was just a guy doing his job. I think he maybe just talked too much. I mean, if you're a little guy like Earl Hebner, it's a little intimidating to have Bret Hart in your face going, "You're gonna call this down the middle, right?" Like,
yeah. Exactly. I mean, you got this guy with like 24-inch pythons to borrow, Hulk Hogan quote, but basically saying like you're not going to screw me or whatever, right? So,
right.
I mean, there's that whole conversation, but I do feel like it was just a referee following orders. Apparently, allegedly, there was another thing that I was reading about is that Earl Hebner was also like mic'd. So basically they were like, well, we have you mic'd. So if you try to tell Bret that we're about to like do this finish, we're going to fire you immediately on the spot.
Like you're wearing a wire.
Right, exactly. So
well, I heard the interview that Bret had when he came back to WWE for the first time. Like him, Shawn, and JR like had a segment together. Bret actually even said that Earl did not actually know, and they only told him as soon as he was actually about to hit the ring. So he actually wasn't aware of it until like they actually grabbed him like very last second. They're like, "Hey, this is gonna be the finish. Just do it when we tell you." So technically, he didn't really like lie. Like as far as he did know, he didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, what do you do when you're like leaving and like you're reading a book to kids and then they say, like a plane has hit the second tower? Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, do you do your job? Do you just keep refereeing or what? Like literally right before the match, like they tell them like, all right, hey, by the way, we're about to fuck your friend over.
Damn, we got the zingers on this episode.
Seriously, yeah, dude, that break did us some good.
So there was also like interesting in terms of like from like a human perspective, like the boys in the back and how they reacted to what happened. So a good chunk of people were really upset with what happened. Famously, The Undertaker walked into Vince's office and told him to basically face Bret Hart like a man and basically explain to the rest of the crew like the logic behind it and all that, and that's where Bret then knocked out Vince, and to Vince's credit, he apparently just gave him a free shot because he knew that it was a shitty thing to do. Now I want to ask you guys this, because this is a theory that exists and it seems kind of crazy, and I don't know how possible this is, but some people think the whole thing was a work. They think everybody, including Bret Hart, Earl Hebner, Vince McMahon, Shawn Michaels, everybody is all in on it, and it was an elaborate work.
The ultimate work.
They mentioned, the Wrestling with Shadows documentary crew being there, seeming that's too convenient. We've had people who were like Earl. I think even Earl Hebner was saying that. Oh yeah, they were like folks are in on it. Sean Waltman, X-Pac, said something similar. Other wrestlers who appeared on different podcasts have Chris Canyon before he passed away brought up something similar. What do you think is the possibility of it being a complete work? Like, is there any evidence that you feel like would even support something like that?
It's wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate evidence, right?
Yeah.
It is wrestling. And here at Chi-Town Shoot, we know what's a shoot and what's a work. And that indeed is a work.
I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, it's the work. It's the work that has worked people for as long as it has. It's working us right now.
It was a shoot reaction that worked itself into a work.
And why do you think that Bret would agree to something like that?
Because he didn't really lose the shot.
So do you think Vince's black eye was makeup then and all that, or do you?
No, he got popped. He got popped.
We're like, all right, for this to actually work, I want you to sock me in the face.
We selling this shit real good. Uppercut me in no underwear.
Hey, lifted him out of his shoes like he uppercutted his ass like Mortal Kombat 3.
Through the second floor.
So okay, so it's wrestling.
Concrete.
I mean, yes, it could and all of it can potentially be a work, and some people can take it to their graves, and that is a possibility. And
it's ultimate work, man.
But like, let's think about this. Even like after WCW, well, I mean, I guess Bret Hart had a concussion in 2000, so even if he wanted to go back to WWE, he
would have came back to a land of no Shawn.
Right.
And he would have got to say he got screwed and been able to move on.
Yeah. And of course, like, it didn't end there. Like, there is a happy-ish ending. So they did, after, WCW got sold, I mean, Bret Hart had his concussion. He had a stroke. Vince reached out to him when he was in the hospital. And then around 2005, they rekindled their relationship and had that DVD project. Initially, it was called Screwed, the Bret Hart Story. And then they changed it to Bret Hart, Best There Is, Best There Ever Will Be. And around that time, he was also inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, actually at WrestleMania 22. In Chicago. He did a speech at the Rosemont Theater. But so, I mean, I guess maybe it was just still at work because he also said he didn't want to see Shawn Michaels at his speech. So he said, if he's there, I'm not going to do it. So maybe he's just really living the gimmick. He was
in the back watching on the monitor, eating popcorn.
A tear. He's like, that's my boy.
Bret Hart. Watching this shit.
Looking at the TV.
Just like playing his Game Boy. And
yeah, I mean, it could just be living the gimmick. So yeah, and then he, of course, came back in 2010 and on screen forgave Shawn Michaels, and that was one of their highest rated Raws in a while, saying that Bret Hart back on Monday Night Raw in 20 years or whatever it was at that point.
Please don't watch TNA. That's what they were saying.
Right. Yeah, because they were also trying to go head to head. So Chris, let me ask you this: What if the screw job never happened? If Bret dropped the title on Raw, left on good terms, what do you think changes in wrestling history? What's the butterfly effect?
I mean, who knows? Maybe WCW goes out on top, like takes out WWF. Maybe the Attitude Era never happens, right? I mean, all those are possibility, because some people say that was kind of the spark for the Attitude Era to kind of do its thing. So That's a possibility.
Yeah. David, what do you think? What the what if? What do you think would happen if the screw job never took place?
It changes everything. Doesn't create a Vince McMahon character, like a Mr. McMahon character.
Do you think the Attitude Era happens?
I think it happens, but it doesn't have its like driving force with be like its lead bad guy being Vince.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's fair. I feel like that was probably the catalyst for that, right? I mean
Yeah,
there are seeds of like an Attitude Era already that was happening. Like, I mean, Brett was leaning into like this whiny like
yeah.
thing, and like DX was
DX is
happening.
DX.
Steve Austin was happening. Like it happened after WrestleMania 13. Steve Austin was doing his thing. Now, would like the Vince McMahon character become a thing? I mean, maybe. I think that's a possibility. I mean,
But it
maybe
would
Bret
improve
Hart,
so much when he
you
got
know?
for the first time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where Bret Hart would fit into that because I feel like he wasn't comfortable with like the Attitude Era stuff, like that, like he was like that kind of like family wrestler and like, girls in gravy bowl matches and, Sable with like handprints on her boobs probably wouldn't be something he'd want to do. Right.
Right.
So
Insane clown posse's there, like
right. I mean, like the whole thing. Val Venus, all that stuff. Like Bret Hart would be a big fish out of water, like even like Owen Hart, like when he was still there in like 98, 99. I mean, I felt like it was kind of similar for him too. Like he had the whole, like, was it like proceed with caution? Speaking of like Naomi, he had like the whole like caution stuff. But yeah, I feel like the Vince McMahon character probably wouldn't happen if the screw job didn't take place. And I guess I want to turn it quickly before we wrap up to like WCW's failure with Bret Hart. So, WCW got Bret, signed him. He showed up, I think, December of 97. And a lot of people consider it to be, fumbling, the hottest free agent in history at that point. Andres, what do you think? How badly do you feel like they misused Bret Hart, and why do you feel like they weren't able to capitalize on that momentum from the screw job?
I'm not sure. Like he definitely like didn't fit the mold of like what was going on there. I feel like not or that they didn't know how to like put him in there because I know like he did win the title, right? Eventually,
He won the title, I think, twice. They gave him the belt. Yeah.
twice. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Just with the caliber of the other wrestlers there, I don't know. He just when he came in, I don't know. I didn't think he was well written out into the story and stuff like that. Because honestly, I didn't really watch that era too much of WCW because that's when like WWE was like hot,
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I would look back at WCW, he was like in the NWO too at one point. I'm like, what is this? Like, this is just terrible, Like
He was in the Wolf Pack, right? I think he was in the Wolf Pack.
no, the NWO 2000 and
yeah, like
later.
the silver and black or whatever. It was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
No, I don't
back
know.
then you had to add 2000 to everything.
Yep. Everything in 2000.
2000. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how they just fumbled that, but at the same time too, like with the main guys they had there too, he just I don't know, they were more focused on the NWO and Goldberg and stuff, and Sting too, and just I don't know. Hey,
Yeah,
just it's
And
hard.
retiring Brett early, they were focused on that.
Yeah, that also fucked everything too from.
I mean that would be interesting if he wasn't concussed. What would happen to Bret Hart? Like if he was he probably still had like another 10 years in him potentially, and then WWF buys out WCW. He's not going back to Vince. At least I don't think so.
I think he would have.
You think so?
Yeah.
I feel like he would have been too heated. I don't know, but
Sting.
Vince. I think Vince was making like
TNA.
money hand over fist,
Yeah.
and I feel like honestly, like they probably could have redone like the screw job. Like that would be interesting television to have Brett back on TV with Vince and Shawn Michaels coming back in 2002. I mean, I think that would have been money, but I mean that didn't happen, of course. And to answer that question for like WCW's failure, I feel like it was just like it wasn't just like fumbling Bret Hart, but it was a series of mistakes that they were making during those 2-3 years anyway.
Yeah.
And you had like Vince Russo, where like they thought Vince Russo, because the WWF was so successful, like he was the golden goose. And therefore, if we just bring in this guy, he's going to give us gold. And clearly, that was not the case when he showed up there. And yeah, I mean, like it was like we saw WCW's creative directions for other characters and people, Hulk Hogan, the Stings, Goldbergs, the Jerichos, all those people who were already around like that same time, the Malenkos, the Guerreros. They're already experiencing bad booking or odd booking decisions, and Bret Hart was just part of that greater booking fiasco. I think that's why they fumbled it, because they were fucking up everything else, and he was just part of that, bad booking tsunami. So, yeah, so I think that's what happened. But I mean, it worked out in the end. Bret Hart got his Hall of Fame. He got some forgiveness from Shawn Michaels and Vince. He even got a United States Championship match in 2010, I think, for a couple of months. The Hart Foundation, the new Hart Foundation, he was a manager, and he was supporting Natalia, Tyson Kidd, and all the other Hart folks. And he popped up recently to get insulted by Gunther. I think he was saying that Goldberg was better, or his favorite wrestler was Goldberg. So, and Bret Hart still, complains about Goldberg to this day. Some say you can even hear him say Bill Goldberg if you listen closely at night. But yeah, I think that it's an event that people will always talk about. I feel like new generations of people, all the youngins, like I mentioned, will be interested in just like the business side, as I feel like we were, and that was kind of like what makes the wrestling business so intriguing, is the blurring the lines between reality and not reality. And that's what keeps me coming back. But I think that's a wrap for this episode of the Chi-Town Shoot Wrestling Podcast. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, rate us, leave your feedback, ring the bell as well. Tune in next time for more Wrestling Madness. Until then, keep marking out.